Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Ultimate Ark. And on today's episode, we are going to do something a little bit different. So I've been going through the edits for episode 6 onwards, I believe it is. And unfortunately, we've had a catastrophic failure with our microphone on all of the recordings. So every single recording, the microphone is fine for the first minute or so, and then it starts chopping in and out, and we start losing the audio from the mic. Game audio is there, video quality is there. It's just the microphone. So today's episode is going to be a little bit different, and it's going to act similar to a 100-day playthrough. What I'm going to do is just go over all the stuff that we've done up until the point where the microphones do come back on for the rest of the videos, and then obviously it will resume as it normally would. Unfortunately, these things happen. I did record a bunch of videos to try and do all the edits before continuing on, and unfortunately, yeah, I found that microphones failed halfway through, some of them, or well, all of them. So yeah, this is going to be sort of a recap of what we've done, all the caves that we've done, all the fights that we've done, all the taming, to get to the point of where we are now. So do bear with me, first time doing a voiceover on any sort of video, but yeah, let's get down to it. So episode 7 sees us open up with the RG, grabbing hold of the Explorer note, and then flying up to where the Alpha T-Rex was. Now with the Alpha T-Rex, we know that we need to get the tooth for the trophy for the Overseer fight at the end of this island series. So we damage it and realise it's going to take quite a bit of time. Luckily there's nothing else about, so we can just fly it on the bird and kill it. If we need to, we can turn off, go and regen stand, and then come back. With the bonus XP, I hadn't accounted for killing it on the RG, not realising how much damage we were actually doing. I couldn't tell whether the blood was quite thick on there, but nonetheless the RG ended up getting it. So we ended up going out looking for a new Ankylosaurus. We needed a new Anky as Metallica. His weight wasn't great, and doing metal runs, it was taking more time because I was having to go back and forwards twice as much because we didn't have a high level Anky. So we brought him back, threw him in the pen, and then we started to get to work on making our extraordinary kibble. Went out with Maggie Thatcher to go and find some meteor berries and some fibre, and we came back to find a Dimorphodon in the base, and I saw it was a high level. So I proceeded to craft lots of bowlers. I think I've made 5 in total, and ended up doing a bit of tracking, find out where it was going so we could get this bowlered. So a couple of attempts, all missed. Thought just one more before he goes over the wall. Couldn't actually get it. Didn't know if it was lagging on the server, but you know, a few of those seem to have hit. Went back out with Maggie, saw that everything was starting to be alpha boosted, found the raptor, and proceeded to go ahead and kill this. It was a level 66, so once again it did take a bit of time for Agent Turkish to do it, but we eventually got it done. Returning back to base, we then proceeded to make the Lazarus chowder that we needed for the extraordinary kibble. I think it's extraordinary, cannot remember. It's either extraordinary or exceptional. It's the highest tier grade kibble. But I proceeded to make the Lazarus chowder for that. It takes a bit of time in the cooking pot, so we had a bit of free time to start knocking out the Ankylosaurus. Was going to sit just on the top, but because its head got stuck inside, I thought, no, I'll jump down. It didn't take too long with our rifle because it was a mastercraft, so it did have over 200% damage, so we could go ahead and get this down quite quickly. Checked its stats, saw that it had a weight of 370. We were happy with that because once it was tamed, it would then be higher, and we thought we'd run back, continue on the work. As I was coming back over, I did see that we had a winged creature. The Dimorphodon was back, but luckily it was stuck within the feeding trough and the base. So just to be on the safe side, crafted up some bowlers just to get it knocked out. I had seen that there was another one flying around and I could hear a third one, so I had to be quick with this, get it knocked out, and then jump on the bird in case anything did decide to attack. Didn't know how many bullets it was going to take, but one headshot seemed to have done the job and knocked it out. Wasn't aggressive, just the one behind the wall was, but we ended up killing that with the Argentavis. With all the prime meat that we had gotten from the Alpha Raptor, I was able to put that onto the Dimorphodon, and that tamed up pretty quickly. We had the Dimorph just for a bit of fun on extinction, and that's the reason why I've got it. Went back, we had made up quite a few Lazarus chowders, so it was now time to make the extraordinary kibble. That's the one. Once again, using the water skins because we didn't have the industrial cooking pot. We were still just using the normal ones. It did take a bit of time. Whilst we were waiting, sorry, for them to make up, we went out, we found a Fiji that I knew was over the far side, up towards where our old base was, and I knew that I could lure it back. It had the pen on the front, we can get it inside. This did actually take quite a few attempts to actually try and get it inside, and once we did get it in, it ended up following us out, so we weren't able to close the gate on it. But we did eventually get it stuck in the trap. Probably would have been easier for me to put some bear traps down. Didn't even think about it at the time. But I did have to go through what felt like an eternity of knocking this thing out. We had to be careful because up here we do have compies. We do have Dimorphodons, Dilophosaurus, and also raptors. So we had to contend with the compies to begin with, and then the Dilophosaurs ended up coming. I found it a lot easier just to kill them on Agent Turkish, and then we can go ahead and proceed to get this knocked out once again. I just didn't understand why it was taking so long. I felt like I was doing something wrong. I felt like I was using the wrong tranks, but it did eventually go down. We quickly just checked its stats to see what it had. Health was just under 4,700, and the melee was at 225. It wasn't great, but for 144, it would do for the time being. Went down, finished off making up all of the kibble, and we got the Anki tamed. So that took 3 or 4 pieces to do. With the Yankee tamed, I then proceeded to put him and the Dimorph into the soul balls and go up and finish off the Fiji. And that was the end of day 7. Sorry, episode 7. This isn't 100 days. So beginning with episode 8, we ended up going up and finding a Charodontosaurus. It was only a low level, but I wanted to test out the taming with this, so when we did find the 168, we weren't going to ruin its taming effectiveness. So as I'd lured it down off the top of the mountain, I then proceeded to set up the trap, 1 behemoth gates, and then 10 metal gateways, 5 on each side. I had seen this on a YouTube video, and it seemed like it was quite a good process. I wanted to make sure the doors opened the opposite side, so when I did lure it in, I could close them and I had a bit more time. Making sure that the area was clear was, well, you've got Dilophosaurus, you've got Raptors, you've got Rexes in the area, and I couldn't figure out why these weren't snapping together. They were the S Plus variant, but it was purely the case that I hadn't enabled G for the Snap 2. So we got those set up, and we had to go back out and find the Karchar. We eventually lured it down, but he kept running off into the wrong direction. Shooting him with the long neck rifle didn't seem to work, as he was too interested in everything else that's going on. But I believe he did eventually come back. Yep, so he did eventually start giving chase to us. Once getting him inside the gate, he did already have a bit of food in there. There was a dead parasaur that for some reason had got inside. Trapped him into the bear traps and then proceeded to fly around and close the gate. One thing I forgot to do was set the RG onto passive, as soon as I jumped off, she was off to go and start a fight. Luckily, she got stopped by the gateway because I reckon he would have killed it. So, using the trick of using babies, we killed a baby Uteranus just with the gun to make it quick and easy rather than having to slaughter it, and proceeded to drag it over. The drag weight of them is 500. So luckily I had 600 weight, and I just needed to put all of my items onto the RG. Bringing it over, it did a little sniff technique, 1 bite, and we were good to go. After killing off all the other baby Uteranuses, we took him onto the mountainside once again and started killing all of the dinos that were up there. There were a few Diplodocus, which did give quite a large XP boost, which was quite nice, or attainment effectiveness boost. And the last one, and we were done. Problem is, a couple of raptors on the ground, and there was a couple of scorpions as well, so I had to get Agent Turkish out quite quickly to deal with those pests. The Agent Turkish did make light work, and also the Karchar came in as well. Trying to whistle attack to actually get the final kill, and eventually we got it. Not realizing how weak the low levels were, it was just more for the actual, are we going to do this correctly, for the bigger one. Moving into episode 9, this was a return to the cave. So we did start with Upper South Cave and ended up picking up 2 artifacts, and we tried to wait for the 3rd one to respawn, but we had been down here for 35 minutes. So we ended up making our way out of the cave, fighting off everything because we had been down here so long it all respawned back in. Once we got outside, we proceeded to go around the side of Redwood to go back to base, looking for any filers so we could start our filer breeding. We needed to find a couple of high-level females and males, killing off all the low levels. Only way to be able to get them off of the tree is with the long neck rifle, just so they don't pounce on me. As soon as I got it down, it was quite easy. There was a second one running around. We did check out that level, but it was quite low, so we proceeded to get rid of that as well. Flying back, we did come across a female 174, and I thought she'd be perfect for our line of filers. So landing not too close, but close as possible. It did take a bit of time to actually pick her up in the talons, but we got home and we dropped her off into the pit. Had to make up a few more trank darts, but we proceeded to go ahead and knock her out, and that was the end of episode 9. Episode 10 starts with a central cave, going in to collect the artifact with the filer once again. With the filer this time it was a little bit easier. The bleed effect does help a lot, but we eventually got the artifact. We did stay around and pick up 2 more of those, just so we had all 3. Then it was back over to the jungle, into Redwood to go and do the swamp cave. Filer, using a jump technique, was making quick work of the Megarania, the drones and stuff, but they still were giving him a bit of a pounding. By the time we got down the first tunnel, we had got down to 2k health, so it was time to heal up. First yellow drop, nothing exciting, and then the red drop, absolutely awful. But the reason why we're around the swamp area is so we can keep doing the drops over and over again. Getting the artifact from the swamp cave was quite simple, but getting out, I didn't actually equate for all of the bugs that might still be within the area. I ended up getting almost killed. Luckily I was right at the entrance, so it would have been a quick recovery. But laying down on the floor, using tons of recovery brews, and then bringing out the pike to think I can hit them. Didn't work, so it was shotgun time. Took out both of the bugs that were there, we jumped on the filer, and we returned it safely to our base. Episode 11 begins with the mutations of the filers. We had 3 different colour regions that we had gone with. I liked all of the blue, so Oko, which is what I named him, was going to be our filer of choice for the missions. We went over to the lava cave, and we decided it was time to go in. And I was just in the episode, I had shown the coordinates, and that's why we did sort of a little spin around there. Working our way through, we only found 1 drop, which was a green drop, absolutely rubbish in there, nothing of use to us, so it was time to go over and get the artifact. Using the grappling hooks, we managed to grab 1, and then I saw that there were scorpions on their way over, so it was time to quickly get back over to safety, and I hadn't got Oko out of his ball, he was still stuck inside. So, dangling above the scorpion, I decided it was time to throw Oko out. The scorpion did retreat, but there was another one on its way over. So, with Oko down below, it was time to get the shotgun out, pump a few rounds in, realised I needed to reload again so Oko could go ahead and kill. Lured over the other one, and then eventually we went back and got the drop. Between doing all of this and the episodes having their little breaks, we were doing a lot of breeding with the filers, as I wanted to try and get as many mutations as possible for the snow cave. We are also breeding up the Basilosaurus and the Megalodons for the 2 underwater caves as well. But second artifact in hand, grabbed Oko, went back to base, and it was very much finishing off the greenhouse, changing the greenhouse glass for the S plus glass, just because of the modifications, and I feel it looks better with a lot more of an open area. We spent quite a bit of time doing this because we were trying to figure out how to use this gun, but we eventually did figure out that you could set the peak levels and stuff after watching a couple of videos, then doing some adjustments on how it all looks. If you haven't got the S Plus installed, obviously it's not available on console, but it is available on PC. Go ahead and get it installed. If you're playing on PC, you're going to have it installed. Episode 12 begins with going out looking for some underwater tames. So we took the Flash and we went over to the west coast of the island to the big pool. There wasn't anything great in here, so we ended up killing all the megalodons in here just so we can try and get them to respawn. I do find it a little bit difficult with the underwater trying to navigate, but as we came out into the deep ocean, we did find that there was an alpha. Thinking that Barry's strong enough, we took out the smaller megalodons and then the alpha decided to make its way over, so we decided that it was time to go and give him a shot. The only problem that I had was there were a couple of jellyfish around in the area, and with the alpha being attacked, for some reason they were interested in to see what was going on, so I had to be very careful not to get the Flash killed by them, but given the circumstances I felt I had enough time, do a lot of damage, retreat, get the Meg to come over, kill it, retreat, kill it, and retreat. Whilst doing this, obviously jellyfish is still coming over, and I was trying to figure out where would be the best place to find Bassosaurus. I knew there was one in the area, but wasn't sure of its level. But the Megalodon looked like it was about to die, so I continued the bash and repeat process. But the jellyfish, they were quicker than what I expected. I accidentally dismounted from the Flash, and he was stuck in a rinse and repeat cycle of being bullied by the jellyfish whilst the Megalodon was going on in as well. I did try and whistle him away and whistle him into passive. Nothing was working for the Flash because the jellyfish kept getting in the way, but eventually, unfortunately, he did die. Retreating back to the RG, we then went out into a bit further south from where we originally were, found a couple of Megalodons out here, and we did spot a 168. So it was time to give it a swim. I could have probably gone back and got another baryonyx, but I decided that I would try and do this in the water without a water tame. Not the best idea, I must admit, but I didn't want to have to fly back and fly back again and fly back and fly back again. I probably should have just put them all into cryopods and brought a load with me, but I wasn't really thinking that day. With the Megalodons, the reason why I was trying to tame up a few of them is I did want to make an army for the underwater cave, the second one on the east coast, just because the dinos in there, or the water tames in there, are a lot stronger than the ones that are on the west coast. It did retreat off, and we did have to resort to a couple of different tactics to try and get it, but swimming around in the deep ocean I do not recommend. We eventually lured it out into the deep with the Argentavis and eventually got it knocked out, but he did have a friend, or sorry, she did have a friend with her, so it was another, once again, retreat to the Argentavis without getting eaten by the Megalodon, and then it was going to be the case of a taming process. The Argentavis was a little bit away from where I was trying to whistle, nothing was working underneath for some reason, I don't know whether I bugged out, but eventually we did get back to the RG, and just before we had our toes nibbled by another Meg. Having a quick look, first tame was with Kosh on the island. He'd gone out and tamed up his first ever dino, which was a pterodon, and then we did find a level 90 Basilosaurus. With the Basilosaurus, it was a pain because you do have to kill off all the stuff around it, but eventually we did get it tamed up, and that was our first cave tame. Episode 12, we decided that it was time to go and build a water base, so heading down to Herbivore Island, we had got a new floating base, water base, in tow. We had the beaver, who had loads of wood, we had the Megatherium on us, Maggie Thatcher, and we also had Tony, the Doedicarus, for collecting stone, just so we had lots of materials ready to build this base. I did use the video from Aaron Longstaff on an underwater base, as he had created quite a few, so this was the process that we had done so far. So at the back would be the house plus a workshop. We had the bridge so we could pop on the soul system. So when we did the breeding, all the babies would pop into the machine, and when we can check its stats. So it was still a work in progress. It did take me a couple of days, Ark days. I think it was about probably an 8-hour build process, but that was the finally completed project. I did like this base setup because of the main room within the actual building itself. It was a nice area to be able to set out artifact pedestals, the what are they called? Taxidermy bases, and also some trophies as well. The only thing I didn't like was the doorways, just because I couldn't get out. So I did eventually change this to have 2 doorways in the same area, because on some of them I wasn't able to actually get out without ducking or crouching. But yeah, the whole layout of it was quite nice, using the S Plus glass as well, once again, just to make that more open feel of the area. Heading back to base, I decided it was time to go and find some Rexes. So we found a female 162, sorry, a male 162 within the redwood up towards the cliff. So we built up the trap, put down the bear traps, got it inside, and popped on the back door. I did stand on the side just for a couple of minutes just to make sure that it wasn't able to get out, because obviously we made the mistake with the Uteranus. I know the Rexes were a little bit bigger, but yeah. Heading back to base, we quickly checked on the phyla mutations. We was on 26 points into melee and only 11 points into health, but we was quite happy with the progress of how they were getting along. Lots of females. I believe we had a total of 20 females there, but then it was time to go and feed the Rex with the kibble, and it only took 3 of them, I believe, and that was done. So our Rex army is underway. As I put the Rex away into the soul balls, picked up all the gates, decided that it was going to get back onto the RG, but he had decided that he wanted to go and fight with a saber. Whistling in the back, we did eventually get back to base. So between episodes 12 and 13, we had bred up the phyla to have 20 health and 20 melee mutations, and we decided to take it out against the Giga just to see how much damage it was doing and to see if we could actually kill it. After a small little fight, we did have to just retreat up to the top of the mountain, use the phyla's climb technique, but we did go back down, try to finish it off, get a bit of meat from the RG, and it didn't go as well as I expected. We did end up fully retreating back to base. But now that we had all the artifacts for the Brood Mother fight, it was time to get onto it. So, sending in all the Megatheriums, I did have them on a taming group order, so I could move them around to the side and try and get them around to the back. It didn't quite work as well as I expected, but we did end up taking down the Gamma quite quickly, which I was quite surprised about. I do know with the Megatheriums bug bonus, they do get additional damage, but I wasn't sure on how much they would actually get. But seeing the damage numbers come through, she did eventually finally drop. Jumping off, we grabbed our Dermis, and we also went and got the element off the other guys, and we went straight into the beta fight. With the beta fight, I did actually end up losing the Uteranus due to a slight miscalculation of the spider damage, but once again, grabbed the element, grabbed the Dermis, and the Brood Mother was done for today. Went back to our ocean base, ocean platform, set up the flag, the Dermis, and the trophy. It was now time for the underwater base, so we grabbed our Basilosaurus. We hadn't grabbed any of the Megalodons because we thought the Basilo would be fine. Only saw a few creatures on the way in, a couple of trilobites and one shark, and then out of the woodwork came all of the other sharks, and I was in for a fight. I wasn't sure if this Basilosaurus would actually be able to take on all of them, because we started getting mantas and jellyfish all coming in at the same time. After a long battle, we did actually end up winning the fight, just about. We were quite low on our health, and we did spend about 35 minutes doing it. When we made our way through to the big room with the artifact, we found an alpha mosasaur. It did eventually get stuck, which made the fight a little bit easier, and we did go over to grab a Dermis so we could later put onto our display. Hadn't ever done a alpha Dermis, so it will be interesting to see how it does look, but we grabbed off all the materials that we needed. And I almost did forget the black pearl, because I did close it and went, nope, I do need them, especially for the tech gear. So now it was time for the red loot crate and the artifact drop. Once we'd got both of those, I did read that the new Helena bot could give details on the caves, so we thought we'd just test it out just to see what she said and see how it all worked. Remembering that after entering into the cave, I did remember I need to go back through all the other caves just to see what there is. But we found another red drop. There wasn't anything great in there. The Megalodon saddle blueprint was the only thing that we could take away with that with any use. And then we ended up picking up the last Explorer note. On our way out, we did find a Alpha Megalodon, which was quite easy battle, to say the least. Once again, this did eventually get itself stuck, and we were able to do quite a bit of damage before taking on the fight in full. But after we did kill it, it was time to head back to base for the day and put up the new trophies. So we started with the Alpha Megalodon, and I was hoping it would have a red glow, but it didn't look anything. There was no difference between them. So I was quite annoyed at that. Placing down the artifact onto the pedestal, it was one last cave, which was on episode 15. And we used the filer for this one, just in case it did fall off the cliff. We had the climb technique to get ourselves out of trouble if needed. With bats being in here, I did bring some medical brews with me, just in case. Found one red drop, nothing of significant use in here, but we did go and get 3 of the artifacts. After getting ready to head back to base, we did find an Alpha Raptor, and I just wanted to test to see how Oko would fare against them and how quickly it would take it down, which to my surprise was actually quite quick. A lot quicker than the RG, as it was doing almost 600 damage. Finished it off, and then it was time for the Megapithecus. Lured it down to the usual spot with our Rex army. Once again, the Rex had mutations of 20 health and 20 melee. Couldn't find the actual key command on my keyboard for aggressive, but the Rexes were making very quick work of the Megapithecus. I think in total it only took 30 seconds for it actually to die out in full, if not that was less than that. As soon as we completed the Gamma, it was then time for the Beta, but before we did, I needed to go and grab my Dermis. With the Beta fight, once again, this was quite quick and easy. The Rexes made quick work, and we didn't lose a single one of them. After killing both bosses, we decided to head back and set up our taxidermy, which was kind of hard to see because it was quite dark, but he did look quite good stood in the taxidermy base. Cycled through a few of the poses later on, but yeah, I was happy with how the taxidermy looked. Kind of thought that was his grr face, but stuck the trophy on. Now with myself, I am partially colorblind, so it was a little bit harder to see once the trophy would actually equip. But it was looking a little bit pink, and I didn't know whether the actual glow effect was coming from the artifacts or whether it was actually coming from the Megapithecus itself. Just on the right side of the head as I move around to it now. Episode 17 consisted of going and doing the second underwater cave. We did have our Alpha Megalodon pack with us and a second Basosaurus just for the mate boost. After the first attack, they did not want to go and attack anything else, and they were just sitting by my side, even though I was whistling for them to be aggressive and whistling them for attack my target. It ended up to be a bit of a shit show. Once we started working our way in, the battles began, and they were intense to say the least. We did eventually make it to the artifact room, grabbed the Explorer note, grabbed the artifact, got the Steam achievement, and then we sat and rested up all of the tames for about 30 minutes. Once we had made it through to the land area of the cave, we hadn't found a single drop, but we did bring Oko just to clear out all the bats, scorpions, dung beetles, everything that was in here, so we can get the last couple of Explorer notes from this cave. I was happy with the progress I was making with the filers at this time. We were through quite a lot of mutations. I just hadn't made a second one as of yet because I was waiting for the snow cave. Headed back to the water base once again to go and pop the artifact onto its pedestal. 2 left is what I was thinking at this point, and I was quite worried. Start of episode 19, we ended up going to grab the Giga, the low-level Giga that we had found, and lure it into the ocean so it would drown itself. I hadn't finished the project with the Argentavis to make the Giga killers, so the only thing I could do was use Agent Turkey to drown off the Giga to be able to get the 1 heart for the beta level dragon. Once it was drowned, we then harvested his body, and we decided that we wanted to go over to the Carno Island cave to go and get some Megalanias. Trying to find Megalanias toxin was proving quite difficult in each of the caves, so there was a male and a female over here, and I decided that it was time to tame them so we could constantly breed them. Whilst I was over here, I did decide that I wanted to go and get the artifacts again. Didn't realise there was still one more spider, and almost sacrificed the otter for the artifact. Found the second Megalania hiding within the wall, and then it was time to tame her, knock her out, and during the time that we did, we was able to go and get 2 more artifacts. Episode 20 led us back into the water to go and tame up the high-level mosasaur that we had found during our time searching around for black pearls and alpha tusis and Lithosaurus, excuse me. It did take a long time to tame him up, but we ended up going to do the back end of the snow caves. This one I did find a little bit difficult because there were no tames allowed and it was purely on foot. I did bring the tech rifle, a handful of shotguns and a handful of grenades just to clear out the rooms. The bats did seem to die pretty quickly, but I wasn't accounting for the ones to come in behind me. At one point I did think I was going to die in this cave and lose everything that was on me, and I was kind of nervous that I was going to get pushed into the hole by the bats, but eventually they did all die. Easy enough to clear out this room, but we couldn't shoot through the artifact, so we had to grab the artifact just off the cliff so we didn't have to fall down and then use grappling hooks. Thinking that one wouldn't move, I turned around, but just as I did, it decided it was time to come at me, and I pulled out the wrong shotgun, wasn't reloaded at all, so it was time to bring out my double barrel. Episode 21 saw us with our fully mutated filers. It was 253 points into melee, and it had 20 points into its health. I did grab a pack of them, and it was time to take out the Giga. That was a level 24 Giga that was still on the hill. Sending them in to attack first, I was very happy with the damage numbers they were putting out. They had been leveled up a couple of times just to get the extra melee damage, and with the mate boost, the Giga really didn't stand a chance, and it fell quite quickly. Sorry, that was a level 12. It was a 24 that I lured into the ocean. Seeing how well the filers performed, it was time to go and head into the snow cave, and just waiting at the entrance for us was a direwolf. So with shotgun in hand and also the tech rifle, we could clear out anything that was waiting within this area for us. Just checking out the damage on it, it seemed to have done decent damage numbers until it got into its mate boost area, and I could just see a pair of legs of a Yeti a Yeti standing in the corner, so it was time to kill them as well. After a long battle with the Yeti, everything else started storming the room, and we did eventually take out quite a few things until they retreated, and we was able to get the filers out. The filers made very, very quick work of this cave, which I was very, very happy about, and it meant that we could grab all of the drops. Wasn't anything great within this cave. The biggest downfall was picking up a red drop that had a wooden shield, a journeyman wooden shield in a red drop. That was the only thing that was in it, so I was kind of annoyed. Oko seemed to have been able to handle himself on several occasions in here, not having to worry about bringing in the others, especially trying to make it across these jumps. We eventually made it to the tunnel entrance, and I'm quite glad I brought the extra 2 with us, because as soon as we killed out the bears, I sent the ladies up first as tribute, just in case if there was any Palovias waiting for us. And lo and behold, as soon as we sort of got a little bit closer, I'm pretty sure one of them ended up jumping around the corner, and it kind of scared me a little bit, but luckily the girls were able to do their job. Finally, we got to the artifact. We did stay here for around about 45 minutes, and the artifact seemed to spawn every 10 minutes, so we was able to get 5 of them. Upon return to base, it was time to go and face the dragon. We had our, was it 19? I think it was 18 or 19 Feezies with us. Once again, these had 20 health mutations, 20 melee mutations. They made quick work of the Gamma Dragon, which was quite nice to see, and they all had sweet veggie cakes as well. As soon as we defeated the dragon, once again, it was time to get our Dermis and go and get our trophy and element. As soon as we completed the Gamma, it was time for a quick heal with the Daedon. We didn't replace any because none has been lost, but we did lose one in the beta version of the fight. So once it did take off and it did land again, but once it was killed, it was time to return to base. We got our trophies, we got our Dermis. But that is the end of the catch-up episodes. I do apologise about the mic once again, but we will be back on the next episode with all 3 boss fights. So once again, guys, take care of each other, and I'll catch you in the next one.